Well, welcome to Thought Leader Life with Michael Procopio and Mitchell Levy. I'm Michael Procopio.
I'm Michael. I'm Michael Procopio. I'm Mitchell Levy. Good to be here.
So we're part of the FIR network, and I just want to alert you to some of the things that are available on the FIR network. So over the last week, we've had FIR Business to Business, episode number 4, an FIR interview with Eric Suave, Link Conversations, number 10 with Jay Klein as the guest, FIR on Higher Education with the Forbes Chief Marketing Officer, Jenny Rooney. So a lot to listen to on the network in addition to our show. Today we're here with Jay McKeever. Jay, welcome to the show.
Thanks, gentlemen. I appreciate your having me on today.
So Jay, as you can see, is Director of Worldwide Marketing for Sincom. And Jay, can you give our listeners a little bit more of your background?
Yeah, I can. But first of all, let me just throw in a plug for Sincom. I can't go anywhere without that. But for 44 or 45 years, actually, Sincom's been.
How can you not put a plug in for Sincom? There's a poster behind you that has the word.
That's Sincom. Right. Well, we're okay. So we're a software provider. I'm the worldwide director for that company. We've got 7 or 8 product lines that I help market worldwide. I've been with Sincom for 17 years, mostly in this capacity. Prior to that, I got another 17-year stint at UPS. I started there part-time, worked through my way through college, and learned communication and marketing there, and was able then to jump into Sincom. So that, I guess, is mostly my background. We're talking about thought leadership today. We're big advocates of that here, and so I'm the host of Expert Access Radio, which is all about thought leadership, and we have a variety of other things which I'm sure we'll touch on today.
Oh, excellent. So we always start out with, what is your definition of a thought leader?
Okay, it's an interesting question, and I'm probably going to meander a couple of different directions, so bear with me. But I think a thought leader is someone who is learned in a particular discipline, and then takes the time to not only share those learnings, but also to collaborate with others and to further develop ideas in a collaborative environment. So that I think in its essence is a thought leader. Now there are also I believe people, and I'll use myself as an example in the radio show that I do. The radio show is built around thought leadership. However, what I do is I choose to focus on particular thought leaders and allow them the platform to deliver their message better. So I'm more like a thought leader promoter, I guess. But that in itself is a type of thought leadership. I don't think there are a lot of people that focus on the authors as closely as maybe I do in the program and really allow them to showcase their ideas. So that's a couple of different takes on how thought leadership at least bangs around in my mind.
No, I like it, and let's stay on there, but let's tie in the other concept of the thought leadership funnel. So if you went to bit.ly/TL-funnel, you could take a look at the thought leadership funnel. And we were talking about this, and Jay actually, for those that are listening, what's interesting, Jay and I have had many, many conversations, and he helped formulate some of my thoughts and opinions about the funnel. But why don't you talk about the thought leader funnel in relation to, and the funnel, it starts at the top, it's awareness and then engagement, then we have future advocates and advocates, right. And you're thinking we should start at the bottom and go up, so why don't you talk about that in relation to the show?
Okay, so and this is purely from a selfish perspective. This is from the worldwide director of Sincom Systems selling software technology. Okay, for us, the nirvana here is your bottom level, and that's the advocate, and that's a many-to-many environment. And obviously, for us, the idea is that many-to-many. It doesn't always translate that way, but an advocate, as you describe it, may have purchased. In our case, most likely have purchased. They're giving you positive reviews about your technologies and the experience. They're endorsing you, and they're providing referrals. And I love referrals. Referrals is the lifeblood of selling. Anybody that not only is willing to say, hey, this company did a tremendous job for us, but then to tell their friends and their peers, boy, I had such a great experience. I'm telling you, you should try them. I'm putting my name, reputation on the line along with theirs, and saying, pick Sincom or pick whoever. And that for me is an excellent way for us to be. I mean, certainly having endorsements and positive reviews on our websites, but also in peer-to-peer. The whole idea of advocates in peer-to-peer, so social media, blogs, just posting comments on things, that is really, really powerful for us. And then certainly then the step below that is your future advocate. So they're seeking out your content. We put out a lot of thought leadership content. We put out our own, but we also have a whole a network of content providers. So Mitchell, you would be included in that. We featured your Think Aha book and your ideas on thought leadership. And so you're one of the many, and we've probably got a couple hundred people like yourself, Mitchell, that are really deep in specific disciplines, and we can share their ideas and spread out the content and draw people into us and make them future advocates. So it starts out with awareness, certainly works your way up or down the funnel, however you want to look at it, to that advocate stage. The engage stage, attending webinars, talks, reading our content, you know, that's all part of it for us. You got to start somewhere, and with us, it's hitting all the channels with relevant content that helps people be better in the performance of their jobs. And then finally, your number one, awareness. So that's just people that are curious, and there's no buying that occurs without somebody being curious or having a need, and the need usually drives the curiosity. So that's the beginning level for us, and again, that's a one-to-many. So we follow the correct channels out there to try and get people or satisfy that curiosity with good, solid content, and take them down through your funnel all the way to that nirvana of ours, being the advocate.
So Jay, I didn't want to slow you down because you want to roll. So I love it. But let's slow down for a second, and that is what's really interesting is I had my publicist sort of send out who I am and what I'm doing, and you picked me up and then so offered to be on the show. So if you're listening, this is a corporation, Sincom, who is running an outside show, and their show is to pick up authors and celebrities and allow them to basically share information. Right. Now, one of the things I noticed, I've been on tons of shows, and one of the things I noticed is that you and your team did a great job. Right, each step along the way, I got the right email, I got the right phone call, I got the message of, okay, here's what to expect, here's what's going on, let's talk ahead of time, let's follow through. Mitchell, on the phone call, I actually read your book, right? I mean, it was kind of interesting because you, in the aspect of the post engagement to the place where we're a future advocate, you, Jay, turned me into an advocate. And it was because of your interactions and what you did and how you did it. And you know, given that you've done 3 years of shows, you probably have 150 other advocates that you actually went through. Tell me about how that works for you. I mean, you've got an advocate in me, but how does that work for you over time?
Well, thank you. And actually, yes, you're right. I mean, you were an advocate to the degree that you have now invited me on your program, and we're sharing ideas. We're using our audiences, so you know, I'm going to promote you to my audience, you're promoting me to your audience, and that's the whole idea for us as communicators, right? To continually grow our audience, to extend our reach, and to reach out and ring the bell, so to speak, of all those people that are curious. But so you're an advocate. I've got a lot of others. You're right. I'm going to give you one in particular. There's a guy by the name of Ray Attia, and Ray is coincidentally a local Cincinnati guy, but he wrote a book called The Fearless Frontline, and I had him on. And since our interview, Ray routinely goes out on social media and through other platforms and says, boy, Jay McKeever on Expert Access did the most thorough job of interviewing me and talking to me about my book, you know, showcasing his content, showcasing his talents and ideas. But then he in turn promotes that, so he throws out the link to our podcast with that, says nice things about me, and you know, he and I run into each other a lot. We run in some of the same circles from a business perspective, so we just kind of keep ratcheting up the relationship. We keep extending the reach of our audience, and there's nothing other than genuine admiration and a desire to work together that kind of fuels all of this, and it's just, I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, I think it's great. All right, so let's talk a little bit, given your role in the marketing space and sort of this movement. I'm a big fan of pushing social selling, and you're actually doing it. You've been doing this for years, right? But let's talk about the sort of the sales and marketing divide and things that are going on there, and what is it first let's cover it from the marketing perspective. What is it that marketers need to think about and do? And then we'll cover it from the sales perspective.
Okay. Well, we were talking a little bit before. To boil it down to its most simple elements, what we want to do here in marketing is to generate awareness, and from the awareness we create, produce qualified leads for our sales teams. I mean, that's at its most simplest. Those are very complex things in execution, but it's just those two basic elements. When you factor in how you best service sales, that's one of those things that becomes very complicated, and we'll probably talk about that in a few minutes. But the way that we begin or go after the awareness is obviously all channels. So we're active in all the various social media channels that are available, extensive blogging. We've got a lot of great website content, always working to refresh that. We work with the analysts, the media. We've got a very robust PR program. And then, out in all the channels, out at the appropriate events, trying to get into the right other blogs, the thought leader blogs of people in our industry. And so we're working hard to do all those things, but really at the end of the day, if your sales team doesn't see value in those, or you haven't taken the time to help them understand where the value delivery occurs, then there's an erosion of sorts that occurs, right?
Right. Well, hey, before we talk about the sales team and what is it that marketers can do to help the sales team be more effective, I still want to talk about, on the marketing side, think about you talking to all of your peers across the entire world of marketers, right?
Okay.
And not that we have that reach, we will one day, but the question is, when there are many companies I talk to where they're thinking social selling makes sense, they understand it, and I have to tell you, the majority still don't get it yet.
Okay.
Why should we be spending time on social media? How is it going to help us? How do we, and social selling is not just social media, but how do we transform the sales guy from somebody who, pounds the table and says my answer is right, to somebody who says I'm a partner, and not only am I a partner, but I have a Yelp score over my head. You could see how I helped everyone else, right? Yeah. So what is the message you want to give to your peers in the field?
Well, so we'll start off from the marketing perspective. The whole idea of social is a great phenomena that we're living through, and it's changed the way that we market today, but it still continues to change, and we're trying to evaluate which specific channels are best for which audience, and certainly as Generation X and Y become more prevalent in the middle and upper management sectors, that's going to continue to change. But so from my perspective, I just believe you would be badly mistaken to say that any channel is ineffective or not to be pursued, but you have to be very careful and have a good strategy for each one of those. So that's kind of one of the things I would toss out to the marketers. And certainly things like this, consuming thought leadership content like yours, or someone like you that is an advocate of those types of things, that's got to be part of your everyday work habit. But then as you transition over into sales, it gets a little even more fuzzy. The sales guys, they don't want to take the time to do some of this. They don't necessarily understand it. But one way that we have sought to work through that, which has been effective, and you're only as good as the last good thing you did, but what we try to do is pick a particular salesperson that is open-minded, and we try to make them successful in some of the things that we advocate. So go out, get active in groups. So you've got the thought leadership group. If that were an area, get active in that group. Talk to people, start commenting on people's posts, and get active, and then start building from there. And we found that if those guys do that, or when they do that, they really start building some success. And what that's particularly helpful is in those industry groups, they become first appear in the industry group, and then they become respected and sometimes more. And that really is helpful, and that gets the sales guys jazzed up. So then they can look at something as complex as Expert Access Radio, or we have Expert Access, the e-zine, which is a sister publication. They can look at those type of mechanisms, and they have a greater understanding and appreciation, and then they want to get involved in those, and we take them up a level with us.
Nice. So, Joe, what you're really saying here is that as you get these salespeople who are willing to experiment with you, you're getting them to become thought leaders in their own right. You know, you talked about the groups where first they get in and they're doing peer work and then they become respected. Well, I would say that if you're in a group and you're respected, you're a thought leader.
Well, that's probably the case, isn't it? So, but that's not it. You know, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes some work and it takes a little thinking behind it. But as you guys well know, that being active and being out there, it can be effective. And so, yeah, we try and bring them along, baby steps. We try and manage their expectations along the way. Maybe even sometimes we have to help them occasionally and write some posts for them or put out some points of view. But you know, certainly the end game is to get them to be the one that's fully active, and they'll reap the rewards from there.
Got it. So what you're saying, though, and this is very helpful for me, because what you're doing is you're actually saying that, hey, as a marketing team, your job is not necessarily to say, hey, the entire world, this is what entire world of sales, this is what you guys have to do, but rather you're picking out a couple of people who could be the right examples, and you're giving them the tools, process, capabilities, technology to actually go and do their thing, and then hopefully roll that across the rest of the sales force.
Right. So if you'd apply an old rule of Jeffrey Moore in Crossing the Chasm, we're looking for an early adopter, right? Someone who's got their antenna up and will try something before most people will, and they'll blaze the trail for you. And so if we can take an early adopter in a sales team or on a sales team and help them to become successful, then you begin getting across the chasm.
Got it. So let's say you're talking to a firm where there already are a couple of early adopters, although they aren't taking their content and their ideas from marketing. They're just doing it themselves because they've figured out what to do.
Right.
How do you corral that group in, and then how do you expand it further?
Well, yeah, so it's always a complicated thing, but message control or keeping the message tight, staying on message, as they say in politics, it's really important. Your value prop ought to be the same coming out of everyone's mouth, right? And the things that you say around that or to support that ought to have some similarities as well. So a lot of times what we try to do is enlist the support of sales management. Again, if you have to start somewhere, so you try and find those people that might be more sympathetic to the cause. But the idea is to prove again that, hey, you're on the right course. You're interacting. If you manage the quality of your interactions around some consistent messaging, it's going to elevate the value of what we're trying to get across. And we're not asking people to say, make outrageous claims or say things that aren't true, but we provide certain values to our clients. We have certain differentiators from our competition, and those are messages that need to be repeated in a number of forums. So that's kind of some of the things that we try to do with them.
Jay, I'm really glad you made that last point, because we had Mike Bosworth on our previous show, and
I watched it.
I love Mike. He was fantastic.
Yeah, he's good.
But one of the things when I leave a message with Mike, right, what he's saying is, the salesperson of today, once again, imagine walking around where you have, let's put, if you want to visualize, put Google Glass on, right? Mm-hmm. So you got Google Glass, and whenever you see somebody, they have a Yelp score over their head, mm-hmm. right? So imagine a salesperson comes to you and says, and they say, hey, I'm honest, and then you see the Yelp score over his head, so right, whether or not they're honest or not, right?
Right.
So you need to say the corporate messages. You need to tie the party line. But what Mike Bosworth says, you need to be open. You need to tell stories. You need to be vulnerable. You need to inherit and grab trust.
Yeah.
Right? And so there's a fine line. How does marketing, right? You got to be a little careful, because if the marketing message is sort of slightly different than reality, how do you, as a salesperson, how do you deal with that?
Well, right. That can be a big problem for us. We're going to try and keep that marketing message as true to life as we possibly can. We don't want to make inflated or grandiose claims. We want to talk about facts. When you stick with facts, that's a pretty good way to go. So we want to take things that we've done, either metrics that we've achieved with certain clients, the successes, the value that they've derived, or the things that were important to them, and we want to talk about those. And certainly, what Mike Bosworth was saying is very true. You need to say it in a genuine fashion. There's nothing wrong with saying something incorrectly as long as you are man or woman enough to circle back and say, I didn't say that properly, here's what I should have said, or here's what I really meant, people will accept that. In fact, they even appreciate and like that. So again, you have to be careful of who it is that you turn loose in areas like this. But again, if you've got someone that's already out there operating, you want to try to at least help them be as effective as they can to get their points across. And then certainly Bosworth, I think, it took it to another level, and that is you need to kind of challenge the current thinking of a client to a new level of thinking. You're operating on a specific plane and you're feeling some pains here, but what if, and you have to take them to a place they haven't been before, and you have to create a vision, and it's the stories that kind of make that bridge you from the as-is state to the desired to-be state.
So the message for, if you're a salesperson and you're watching this show, and by the way, I want to see a couple Sincom salespeople on the Thought Leadership Best Practices group on LinkedIn contributing. So now your message, you can make it happen. But if you're a salesperson listening to this, what should I be taking away? Right? Listen to Mike Bosworth. That was a good episode. But Jay McKeever, the marketing guy, is saying do X.
Oh well. So I'm going to steal a page from Bosworth's book, I think, probably, and that's the creating the relationship. He talked about salespeople have to earn the right to engage with clients, and that's either to ask them questions or to present ideas to them. You can't just go in and show up and throw up, as the old sales adage goes. You've got to build a relationship. So there's a number of ways to do that. Obviously, if you're fortunate enough to be face-to-face, you have to build rapport in that regard, and you can see the body language, and you can get an idea of where you are, and you earn the right to further that conversation. But if you don't have that luxury in today's world, there's the whole idea of digital body language. And you do that via social things, and you look for those social signs. So I'm making some statements, I'm having conversations, or I'm applying a point of view to something that you've said, and through that dialogue, I begin to build a relationship with you, and again earn the right to then maybe ask for a face-to-face visit.
Got it. One of the things I took away from Mike's show, we pulled together. This is one of the ahas, and we'll put it in the book we do together. It's the number one bad habit salespeople have is premature elaboration.
Yeah, never goes well. The whole idea, especially in technology of features and functions, is one that can plague us, and no one wants to hear that. There's no better way to watch someone's eyes glaze over than to start talking really in great detail about what and how technology works, or how and why technology works. It's more, you have to keep the conversation focused on them, right? Everybody's in the same position. What's in it for me? And so as long as you are always sensitive to that person, your audience, whether you're interviewing an author on a radio program or you're trying to sell somebody a $1 million software implementation, it's always the same. You have to concentrate on that person and understand what they need, and make sure that they understand you're an advocate for them.
I like it. And that's, once again, big issue, trying to figure out how to get advocates who not only like and respect you, but then want to go ahead and push you further.
Yep.
Hey, if you're listening to this show, what you're not seeing behind Jay's head is a really nice banner, with the company name Sincom, and then it has 45 anniversary and little popping signs. So, tell us about that, Jay. 45 years old software company. That's pretty cool stuff. Yeah,
we're very proud of that. There are not a lot of software companies in the world that can say that they've been in operation for 45 years. We began in 1968. Our founder, Tom Neese, is still active within the company. He had an idea that software in 1968 was more important than hardware. He took that idea to his then company, IBM, and they didn't necessarily agree with him. He felt strongly enough about it to found his own company, and we haven't looked back since. So we are in our 45th year. Tom Neese has been the longest-serving CEO in the software industry through that time. But it's not so much about our history; it's where we are and where we're going. We have a rich history which has gotten us to where we are today. But moving forward, we're still trying to say what's in it for you. How can we help you achieve your goals? And that's what we're all about.
So if I'm a prospect, just do a 30-second pitch for Sincom. If we're who is the right prospect for Sincom? Why would they want to use your tools and services?
Okay. Well, certainly we're selling enterprise-level technology, so we're usually selling that to buying committees. There's usually going to be a C-level sponsor, so a CFO, a CEO, a COO is a sponsor of those committees, but they'll have business users as well as technical users or user groups, representatives from those departments. It's mostly a business sale, so we talk about the value that we deliver. We talk about how fast we are to return on investment, and we tend to be a little bit faster than our competition. Our implementation, we're proud of that. It's a little shorter than a lot of others, and we don't. That's not where we make our money. We make our money on the technology. So it's usually a strong message that we're going to deliver on time, deliver about on budget, and you're going to get what you thought you were going to get, if not more. And so depending upon the industry you're in, is a good message. Actually, independent of the industry you're in, that's a solid message. And then certainly we've got to tailor it to what the specific needs and wants of those individuals are. So we go in and we say, what do you want? Why do you want it? How can we help you get it? And we work through that process and show value at every step of the way. And if we can't demonstrate value, we'll walk away before the customer will.
I like it. The reason I asked, Jay, is I knew you'd have the right answer. That answer also applies to not just what you do for Sincom, but for anyone in the marketing space. So if you're a salesperson, you need to expect this from your marketing team. If you're in a marketing space, you need to deliver the type of messages that allow the salespeople to actually say, hey, listen, this is why not only are we good in this space, but this is why I, salesperson, can help you accomplish the goals and the issues and solve your problems.
Yeah. Yep.
So you're good at that. You're good at that. What else should if you're thinking once again, I want to go back to that marketing message. If you're a marketing guy and you're listening to Jay McKeever, you're listening to this show, what for 2014 rolling into 2015, what do you got to think about?
Well, number one, you got to think about keeping up. It's a struggle now. We laugh about how things have become. It used to be years ago I would sit with my boss and we would put together a good PR message, or we would put together a story around a particular customer success, and he would say, now, I want you to find 7 avenues to get this particular message out. And so back then, 7 avenues was your website, a press release, maybe buying some ads. We would struggle to get that thing out across 7 different channels. Now today, you've got many more than 7 channels to get a message out in, and you have to understand each of those and have a strategy for each of those. And it continues to change. And so one of the things that I think people need to understand is learning is a lifelong process. You can never stop doing that, and you can never say, I've got it all figured out, I'm going to stick with what works and only do that, because what works today won't work tomorrow. So that's kind of that's how I would advise a marketer looking into the future.
I don't think anyone said this on the show yet. I'm so glad you did. Learning is a lifelong process, and what works today doesn't work tomorrow. And it's amazing some of the techniques that the advocates and folks that I've worked with, they did something one year, and then specifically we're talking about a book and releasing a book. They did a book and they did a campaign and it went great. And then they did another book and they did the exact same campaign and it didn't work. And the question is why, right? And then there were these other guys, they tried something and it didn't work, and then they did their new book. And I said, you should try what you did again, because I think it'll work now. And guess what? It does.
Right. Yep. So I was, curiously enough, I was on a call the other day with an analyst in our space, and he was talking about the different media platforms and where there was value and where there was not. And he said, for a company like yours, Facebook, there's no value for you to pursue Facebook. However, I turn around and I talk to a generational expert, and this guy says, if you want to hit Gen X and Gen Y, those people are glued to Facebook, and you need to have a story for them through a channel that they like to consume it. And you know what? You might not hit them during 9 to 5, but 11 o'clock at night when they're checking up on their friends and their relatives, having some of your ideas out there that might be useful to them, that might be a great way to go. So again, you know, it's just, you just never know from one day to the next what's going to work, and you never know quite who to listen to, so you just have to keep listening.
I could see how the analyst would say that, and what I would say to the salespeople who are listening, I'll give you the quote of the day for me, is Facebook helps B2B salespeople warm up their cold leads.
There you go. So the conversation and the relationship, right?
That's what social selling's all about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got it. Hey, Michael, how are we doing? Any
I think it's time to wrap up. We're just about out of time. So,
there you go.
Jay, anything that we didn't ask you that we should have, or any points that you think we should get out to anyone watching?
Well, Mitchell, you know, we talked a little bit when we were planning this out about trying to map some of the elements of the thought leadership funnel to different parts of a buying cycle. And I think that's probably fodder for either another guest or another show sometime, but I'll just kind of leave that as, you know, you always leave them wanting more. So I'll leave your audience wanting more. We need to talk about how the thought leadership funnel translates to the various phases of the selling cycle, or the buying cycle, as we like to call it, and I'll leave it at that. Okay.
Well, I want to thank our sponsor, ThinkAha. They are a publisher, and they help experts become thought leaders. They have the 42 Rules series, which is what I did, and you've heard a few comments about the ThinkAha series, which is a book full of tweetable moments and ahas. And now they have the Thought Leadership app, which takes those tweetable moments and puts them in an app that makes them very easy to read and very easy to share. So with that, I will say, Mitchell, goodbye. Any last thoughts on your end?
No. I just, Jay, you know, you never do exactly what you plan, but I love your comments. I am a big fan, a big advocate of you personally, and of course your firm. And I think the types of comments and the thoughts that you gave here were spot on in terms of helping people understand, not just where Sincom is, but where marketing and sales individuals need to be thinking about and moving forward. And there are a ton of aha moments that I think came out of this show. And so, Jay, thank you so much for your time and energy. I really appreciate the effort.
Well, Mitchell and Michael, thank you both very much for having me on. I really enjoyed it.
Okay, well, have a great day.
Bye, guys.
All right, bye.